All right, my friends, welcome back. In this last video, we have looked at static and relative positioning. Today, we are focusing on absolute positioning in CSS. This allows us to place element exactly where we want inside a container or the whole page. We are placing the element where we want that element to actually be in the page. If you could remember from our last class, which is the relative, we said that when you position an element relative, it moves. When you position an element relative, then you can use the top right um, property to move the element around. But while moving the element around, the initial space of that element is preserved or reserved. But in absolute, it is a different case. When you set an element's position absolute, it is removed from the normal document flow. Other elements act like it doesn't exist. So by default, it is positioned relative to the nearest ancestor that has a position other than static. If no such ancestor exists, is positioned relative to the HTML viewport. If this is cleared, then let's go right into coding what this actually means. So, for instance, let's give this a wall. Let's give this a parent.container and then put this inside. So we can say dot container position. So we are going to position this container. Relative, like we have said. Then I'm going to say, so let's just give this a common class name as well. We can say bx. Bx for all of them, so we can style all together. I don't want to use div because it could affect the parent as well. So in the parent, we can give it a border of say 2 pixels, solid red. And then we can give it an height of say 500 pixels of height. But that is too much. We can say 400, or still take it down to 300 because we want this thing to be on screen. So we have 300, and then the width should be 300 pixels as well. So you see, we have the height of the parent to be 300 pixels, the width of the parent to be 300 pixels. So we can say dot bx, which is for the children, and then we can give them a border of 100, or let's say 50 px. Sorry, we can say 2ps solid navy. So we have all of them there, but we can set their width to, let's say, 40 pixels. So that's their width. Now if we can say we can position, let me choose one of them to position absolute. So I can say dot box 1 position absolute. So when I position this thing absolute, observe on the page what happened. So let me comment on it, and then you see everything is normal. But when I position if I uncomment on this code again and observe, you can see that it collapses. What happened here is that the position that box 1 was occupying, those elements around it did not even notice it again, because it has gone out of the flow of the HTML structure. So they forgot the position and they occupied it, unlike relative, where the initial position was preserved. But in absolute, the initial position is never preserved. Once you position an element absolute, its normal position is being taken away from him. So you have to give it a position where it could stay, where you want the element to be. But remember this, that even when the element position is not preserved, it is still relative to its parents. What is the parent of box 1? The parent of box 1 is called container, and container is position relative. That means box 1 can only stay within container because container is its parent. So because container is relative, it stays within container. So let's move container to the center of the page to buttress this point further. Let's say, let's give it a margin. Let's give it a margin of, say, top and bottom. You want this thing from top and bottom to be like 3 rem, top and bottom, but left and right auto to center this element in the middle of the page. Auto, which is left, automatically calculate the margin of the left and of the right and position the element at the middle. That is the meaning of auto. So now, if I remove this parent element to be non-relative, if I comment on it, watch what happened on the page. So we can see the box, because this parent element is no longer relative. What will happen to this box 1 is going to take the nearest ancestor to be relative to that ancestor. Let me tell you what I mean. What I mean is this: if I say top 0, look at this element now. Box 1 is at the top, 0, not within the parent, which is the red border, at 0. If I say top 0 and then right 0, you can see that it is at the right of the browser 0, which means it left its parent because its parent is not position relative. So it went to the next closest parent that is position relative or static. So in this our case, the nearest parent is our body elements. So if I reposition the container relative, it will come back to its parent. You can see that it has come back to its parent because its parent is relative now. So what does this thing mean? It means that when you position an element absolute, it loses its initial position and gets its relative, and it loses its initial position and relative to the parent element. Let me take it again. When you set an element to position absolute, it is removed from the normal document flow. Other elements act like it doesn't exist. By default, it is position relative to the nearest ancestor that has a position other than static. Do you understand that? So by default, it is position relative to the nearest ancestor. So because the parent initially that will remove this stuff, so it took in another element that is position relative or something else. So this is how this thing works. And with this, we can move this element around. When you are building a calculator, we can see that these things are very, very important. Position your element relative so that you can arrange your boxes around. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I am just going to say I'm just going to duplicate this and then change this to 2. If I change this to 2, and then I'm just going to say top. Instead of right, I'm going to say left. And then we see box 2 is at the left. And then I can change this to 3, and then change it to 3. And then instead of top left, I can say bottom left. So I can say bottom so I can say bottom left, and then you can see this one is left. So your own assignment, you are going to add another box right here and call it 4, and then position it this way. So try that, and then not only that, create another box, call it 5, and position it at the middle here. I want to sit at the middle. So thank you very much. Let's see you in the next class.